All right, well, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for this fourth Idaho Cultural Resource Information System update. And for those of you that I haven't met, I'm Shannon Boleen. I'm the SHPO Data Manager. As I said, this is the fourth ICRIS update, and recording of the 3 previous sessions can be found on our website, along with a couple of other documents that may be of interest. And I've dropped a link to that page in our chat. Recording of this session will be added as soon as it's available for download. So you can share that with other people that might be interested. A bit of information to update you on first. The go live has been pushed back a little bit, and it's now scheduled for January 19th. It kind of goes back and forth. So we're hoping for earlier in January, but right now it's at January 19th. Before we get started, I ask that you please mute yourself, and there will be time for questions after our presentation. So please hold them until then and raise your hand for me to call on you. These sessions are meant to build on more or less on each other. So we're not going to cover exactly the same ground as last time. Rather, we'll take a look at the things that have been developed since then. For example, today I'm going to be demonstrating how to identify a resource that will be adversely affected on a project, and then the MOA module that goes along with that. I'll also show you some of the map improvements that have been developed. And please keep in mind that ICRIS is still very much in development, and there are still bugs to be worked out. So the finished product will look much like you see today, but not necessarily exactly as you see today. I don't want to repeat everything that we went over in the previous sessions, but I will make a few points to start off for those of you that weren't in those previous sessions. Specifically, that while ICRIS will bring some changes for all of us, for the most part, the processes will remain unchanged. You'll still input data about sites or resources, and for the most part, the same data. And you'll still provide photos of those resources, and you'll still write a report and submit it. But the process for these actions will become more automated for you and for us. For instance, rather than entering data into SHPO's access databases, you will input data directly into ICRIS. Based on the survey that we conducted last year, we took a critical look at our site forms and winnowed out some of the fields. So there will be fewer fields to input. Because everything will be initiated through GIS, the locational information will be auto-generated, saving you time and effort and ensuring some accurate maps, more accurate maps, I should say. Some of the terminology has changed because of the nature of ICRIS. The term site was not a viable term because there are sites that are classified by the National Register. There's archaeological sites, and we refer to all of them as sites. So now they are called resource records to kind of clarify that. Users will create a project in ICRIS, and within a project, then you will create resource records. Rather than contacting our office for a record search, you'll have real-time access to our data, both site forms and reports. And users will be able to upload a shapefile of an APE or a survey area, or draw it within the GIS. And all existing sites and reports will populate on the map within your project area, and a tabular list will be generated as well. Users will write a survey report outside of ICRIS and then upload a PDF version. Once all of the elements are complete, projects will be submitted to SHPO with the click of a mouse. As soon as a user finishes a resource record and hits complete, a Smithsonian trinomial will be auto-generated for the record. And so you will have that information immediately and won't have to wait for SHPO or myself to assign them. Both archaeological and built environment resources will now receive Smithsonian numbers, and there will no longer be IHSI numbers issued, though the data will still be part of the legacy data and searchable in the system. I will say that I am still issuing IHSI numbers currently, and so this policy of only receiving Smithsonian numbers will happen after we go live on ICRIS. So once we go live, let's see here. Sorry, I lost my place. SHPO staff and subscription users will have a dashboard within ICRIS with active projects visible. And on the SHPO end of things, we'll have a visual indication and automated reminders regarding review deadlines. And you will also be able to see who is reviewing your project and the status of that review. ICRIS will have automated messages and timestamps to track that progress. We are also developing a field app utilizing Survey 123 that will allow users to capture data and images in the field and upload them to a project within ICRIS. And this is not a mandatory feature, it is a bonus feature. So that's kind of the big picture. So now let me get to the demonstration. Okay, so I have created a project in ICRIS, and you can see, can everyone see this? Let's see. I think that's as large as I can make it. So this project shows that it is in progress, and it's my project. It's a Section 106 review, and then it has that BLM Burley is the lead agency, and that HRA is the submitter. And what I'm going to demonstrate for you today is if there's an adverse effect on this project, what steps happen next. So I'm going to go and edit this project, and I'm going to select an agency project finding of adverse effect. And then I'm going to select a resource that is on this project that is eligible. The dropdown will only provide resources that have been determined eligible. So I can select that, and now you can see that there is a resource listed as adversely affected resource. And now we can save that project. The next piece I'm going to show you is the MOA. Now this was all pre-submission to SHPO. And then after SHPO has done their review, then this MOA tracking piece will come into play. So basically you would upload a fully executed MOA. And so that is now part of this project. And then you would have what date it was signed and what date it expires. And then you can add stipulations that are included in that MOA for tracking purposes. So we'll say some excavation of site is one, and then we'll do photos of site is another. We'll save that. And so now part of this project shows that there's an MOA that was signed and has an expiration date and has various stipulations that then SHPO can go in and say that it has been completed or it has been accepted. So we can say that this one was completed on this date. And now you can see that this stipulation has been completed. I know I kind of went through that rather fast. It's a very simple module, but it will really help with tracking of stipulations on these MOAs. The system will also, at 6 months out from the expiration date, send out a reminder to all people that are on this project that the MOA is about to expire and that stipulations are still open or haven't been completed. So that's that piece. Now, the other piece that we did some improvements on is the map, and we're still adding to it, but this is what we've got so far. So now there is a full screen option, which will then make it so you can see everything much more detailed. There's a base map option where you can change your base map. These are all just basic ArcGIS base maps. There's an ability for you to zoom to where you are if you wanted to zoom in, oops, sorry, to your exact location, or if you wanted to do an address of someplace. And then the last piece is the measure tool. So you could measure how far something is. It's mostly just for any information that you guys might need about that resource or its location. You can change the units that it's measuring. You can do a new measurement or cancel your measurement. And then you can get out of the full screen and get back to your project. So I know I went through that rather quickly. So I am now going to open it up to questions. Yes, Craig.
Hi, Shannon. How's it going?
Going well, thank you.
Good, great. I have a series of questions. And I'll start out with, I was wondering, are we going to be able to download a shapefile of an area of interest? Or so we can pull that into GPS when we're in the field?
Yes, we have not developed that piece. It will likely be part of the search function and may not right now be part of the project. So you would do basically a record search in our on our search map, and then there will be an export function.
Okay. And for that record search, can we, I'm assuming that we'll be able to upload our 1 mile buffer.
It'll be, yes, it'll be the same
Okay.
as on the project where you can select a shapefile or you can
Right.
draw your own, and then it'll ask you how far of a buffer you would like, and it defaults to 1 mile.
Okay. Okay, cool. And then you mentioned that we're uploading PDF reports. Are previous reports going to be available online?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
So for this project, let's see, this is my literature review for this project, and here are all of the previous surveys for this area. And I can navigate to this project, and then here is the PDF that I can download.
Okay. All right. And is this going to go back for all surveys, or is it does it time out at a certain point?
We have PDFs for all of our surveys.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily have GIS for all of our surveys, but we do have, there will be an entry in ICRIS with a PDF of all of our surveys that are in our database.
Okay. I'm just wondering because, a lot of that data is just as point files. So if we have a buffer and the centroid's outside, that stuff's not going to show up.
I'm sorry, I'm not following.
I guess that, well, if you don't have the GIS data, that means those aren't going to.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So if we don't have GIS, then it will function basically the same way that the record search function is right now, which is based on township, range, and section.
Okay.
And so that information will be in lieu of an actual shape. And then once a shape is generated, then the township, range, and section data will fall off, and it will be replaced with the township, range, and section data of the shape.
Okay. Cool. And then one last question. Is there going to be a method to if we have multiple sites, like say 30 or 50 or even 100 sites, are we just gonna have to be doing that one at a time, or is there like a method that we can, upload the data as a batch?
So currently it will be through the Survey 123 app, where
Mhm.
you would be using that out in the field and putting in some basic information about the resource. And then when you come back to the office, you would log into your project. And then, so imagine that they haven't developed it yet, but another
Right.
button here that says import from Survey 123.
Mhm.
And then it would present you with a list of all of the resources that you have recorded in Survey 123. And you could say, select all, or, pick 1, 2, 3 of them. And then it will import them in as resources with whatever information you populated in the field.
Okay, so if you're not using Survey 123, then no is the
That,
answer.
well, no is the answer for the moment. We're still trying to figure out, the developers are still trying to figure out how to do that. I have requested it and we'll see
Okay.
how that all plays out. So that is our intent. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You are welcome. All right, Nikki.
Hi, Shannon. Thanks. Just kind of following, I have a couple other questions, but I've never used Survey 123. So does it have offline capabilities so we're not logged into the system because we're out of the touch of Wi-Fi or whatever? Can you do stuff on it without
Yes.
being logged into some network? Okay.
Yes, it will utilize GPS if you don't have actual internet. So
Okay.
it's an app. It'll be an app on your device.
Right. Yeah, I've heard of it. I've just never used it. So I don't know anything about it. Okay. But then I had a question on updating site records. Obviously, as part of review, we can update those site records. What if we do, as a federal agency, do a Section 110, which does not require review? Would we be able to update site records through that, or is there, how would we go about that? Because I think that'd be a really, if we can just update them that through the system rather than,
Yes.
just holding them on to them ourselves.
Let me, let's see here. Want to create a new project and do a Section 110.
Okay.
And so we can just quickly create a project.
Okay.
And so then here is where you could go in and draw your area here.
Right.
And then you could update any of these. So you could,
Okay.
if this is the resource that you wanted to do, you would create a new version, which then would show you all of the data that we have currently. And then you can just go in and change the things that have changed. Add anything that is missing, and then go back to your project, and it'll show you that that resource is now part of this project, and that this is the one that you're interested in having us look at and update on our system.
Okay, but that wouldn't kick off any sort of formal review.
Well,
type of thing,
not necessarily like a formal review. I mean, it'll still go through our reviewers to just go through and look at all of the information. And if there's any eligibility changes, then they would then provide comment on that.
Okay. Okay. And then I just had one more question. When you talked about the MOA, you mentioned that at 6 months it would send out a message. Would that go to all the consulting parties on the MOA? Like, say it's the federal agency, the SHPO, and they, in our case, like a grant applicant. Would the grant applicant also get that notification, or would it just be the federal agency?
We haven't said that it would go to everyone that is on the project. So if that additional person was on here as a secondary agency, they could get the notification. So the secondary agency can be, you know, whoever you would like to add onto there, and
Okay.
actually have a name of an individual, and then it would go to them.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Kristen? Sorry, Kirsten.
Yeah, sorry. I had to unbury the, I've been listening and so I had to find the window. So my question is specifically on the GIS upload. So we usually go through a refining process to, and I'm sure this is, you know, pretty regular with a lot of people, is going through and checking and refining and all of our GIS data before submitting it. And a lot of that, you know, is in, let's say, like, you know, ArcGIS, which is also through Esri, which is what Survey 123 is through, but it's fine, you know, more refined than the straight from the field Survey 123 data.
Right.
Does that upload would still allow, like, you know, that process to go through? I've only done Survey. We just started using it for Survey 123. So I'm not really super familiar with how like an upload transfer would really work, or if it allows any modifications. So say you have a long survey and like one tech likes to record all of his isolates as an artifact, basically just using the wrong iconography or something.
Right.
And we have to go back through and change it. So that kind of sort of modification and double checking datums and stuff like that.
I will have to check on that. I'm not sure the answer. I mean, it makes sense because it is an Esri product, but I will
Yeah.
have to get back to you on that one.
Okay.
So I can tell you that the data that we're going to have for the Survey 123 will be pretty basic data for a resource. So if we use this building as an example, like the fields that we would have would be the property type and the resource name and eligibility and a description, and then a few of these other very specific things. So the recording it, the first thing that you would do is tell Survey 123 what type of resource you're recording. Is it an archaeological site? Is it a building? Is it a structure, etc.? And then that will dictate which fields are presented to you. As far as cleaning up data, like GIS specific data, I'm not sure how that works, but I will ask our developers and I will have an answer back to you as soon as I find out.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sure. Let's see. I have Wendy asked, will you need the PDFs in archival format? We have not required that, and I'm not sure if we're going to. If it is a strong feeling by our partners that archival format is important, we can institute that. But I think for the moment, we're just, because most of our documents are scanned documents, they can't be archival format. Let's see, Jeremias.
Yeah, this is kind of building off of Kristen's question. So my understanding is that you're in your GIS system, you're just going to have site polygons, building polygons, isolate locations, things like that. There's not going to be feature classes for individual artifacts or features within sites.
That is correct, and that is how our system is currently.
Okay. So we'll probably all need to anticipate putting those kinds of things in a separate system and then uploading polygons and survey boundaries to your system afterward.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Let's see here. Oh, Craig, yes, I can send the answer to the survey 123. I can send that to everyone. I'll reply to all on this. The survey 123 app is new to us as well. So we're kind of we're making our way through it with all of the questions that we get. So yeah, it's a fun adventure. All right, do we have any more questions? Virginia.
Hi, Shannon.
Hi.
So my question is about the MOA process.
Okay.
And currently we're just emailing and going back and forth with SHPO about our MOAs. How is the ICRIS system going to change our consultation processes for MOAs? And do you know if our existing MOAs that we already have, will those be input into ICRIS and we'll get those timeline alerts that you were talking about?
Okay, so the creation of the MOA and all of that discussion piece will take place outside of ICRIS. So
Okay.
any editing of the MOA and all of that tweaking them will all take place outside, like through email. And then once you have a fully executed signed version, then that's when it'll go into ICRIS. And we were talking about having it through ICRIS, but it was getting too convoluted and confusing. And it seems like it's not really broken right now. So we're going to continue on that way. And then the will be in ICRIS. And yes, the old MOAs will be in the system. We do currently keep track of the date that it was signed and the expiration date. The only piece we don't keep track of is the stipulations. So that piece of the MOAs in our legacy data will be missing. But
Okay,
we do have scanned copies or digital copies of the more recent MOAs that will be part of ICRIS.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Craig?
One last question for me. I'm not really that familiar with Survey 123 either, but is that like a subscription base? I know it comes with ArcGIS, but for those those contractors who don't use it, are they going to have to subscribe to it or what?
You will not have to subscribe to it. It is with the way that we've developed it was so that you didn't have to have an Esri account in order to use the system. You would, when you log in to record a new resource, you would put in your email address that you have used to register for ICRIS. And that email address is what will tie you to the data that's in the cloud.
Cool. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's see. I don't know if Ashley had demonstrated this piece to you last time, but we will have the events piece on the sidebar of projects that will tell you some of the highlights of events that have taken place on a project. So like this one that this is who created the project 6 days ago. An MOA is in progress 21 minutes ago. And so these are pieces that will show a timeline. It will have a lot more in here. This is just a dummy project, but it'll have a lot more in here, like that the project was submitted to SHPO and then SHPO sent their letter back, and all of those events will be recorded here. Anything else? Any other questions? Yes, Catherine.
Hi, Shannon. How are you?
Doing well. What's up?
Good. I just wanted to ask if you will have given us like guidelines for the size of photographs. Like you probably won't want raw form photographs of resources, but like will you have like a maximum and a minimum size of photographs that we should upload?
Yes, right now the system limits every attachment to 25 megabytes. We haven't come up with the exact limit that we're going to have per photo. The photos do have to be JPEG. So having a raw image won't be an option to upload. And JPEGs are typically smaller, but we haven't come up with very specific guidance on that piece.
Thank you.
Um, Well, I think that was all that we had to demonstrate today. We're working on a few more pieces. Quite a lot to do before before January. Okay, will concurrence on NRHP be noted when we do a record search? So the eligibility of a resource will show up when you do your record search. For instance, this literature review for this project shows that the last eligibility finding was eligible for this resource and not eligible for this resource. Does that answer your question, Craig?
Yeah, it does. I was just thinking, and since we are going to be doing this, it's virtually real time. If there is, I guess I'm thinking if there is a current ongoing inventory or project going on in one of our inventory areas that has been submitted, but is it going to say it's in draft, or is it just not going to show up?
So it won't show up until it won't show up until it's in the accepted status, which means that one of our staff has gone through and looked through the resource and said, yes, I accept this with this eligibility. So there's 3 statuses for resource. There's in progress, which is self-explanatory. Then complete would be you are still working on it, but you've met all of the basic criteria to make that resource complete. And then accepted is when everything is done, SHPO has signed off on eligibility, and the project may not be done, but the resource could be accepted.
Okay. What happens if there's a disagreement between the agency and SHPO about eligibility?
So there is an option. Let me go back to this one here. So I'm logged in as SHPO right now. And so if I go in and change this eligibility and click save, it asks me for, is this an actual like official response, and say integrity is lost and add a comment. And so then that will show up on the project, I believe. Oh, they haven't updated it yet, but that will show up on the project and also on that resource. So if I go back to that resource, it should have it in the resource comments.
Okay.
And obviously our staff would have a little bit more to say than just that,
Right.
but that is where that would be recorded. And then the concurrence letter that comes from our office would also indicate that there was a disagreement on that particular resource. And then it would also print those notes about what was disagreed.
Okay. All right.
Yep. And so Paul, you asked about the captioning of photos. So they're working on fixing this piece, but currently we have, if you have an overview photo, it requires a description of the photo, but we want it for all photos. And so what would happen is you would upload your photo and then you would go in and add a description to that photo. Wendy, you had a question.
Yes, back to the NRHP eligibility. So basically, if it says accepted, that's assumed SHPO concurrence. Is that correct? I got that right? Okay.
Yes.
And will there be a date that it was concurred? Or just, yes, they concurred?
Yes, yes, there will be a date. I can't recall how that date gets entered in. But yes, there will be a date. I believe I need to look into that because I think that the actual date of the eligibility will be the date of the project finding from SHPO. But if those are like a month apart, I'm not sure how that works. So I'll have to look into that. But overall, yes, there will have to be a date.
Quickly, just so you know, I have had agencies, especially the Park Service, they want to know if SHPO concurred and the date of concurrence. So those things are just important. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Let's see. Oh, I did want to show, there was one other thing. We did, oh, this one isn't, I thought this was listed. Nope. Okay, well, we did add a piece in there that has the National Register reference number for when it was listed in the National Register and the date. So that will be included on here as well. And Paul, you had asked, can the system be used to scope work without setting up a project? Yes, I don't have a way to demo that right now, but yes, there will be a generic like search functionality where you can search by the map. You can search by if you know the project name or if you know the survey name or if you know the resource name. There will be 3 separate tabs that will have all of the fields that you could search for by those pieces. And then also the map where you could bring in a shapefile and get an idea of all of the resources that are within that project area. And you won't have to create a project to do that. Craig, well, that'll be a workaround for the 25 megabyte upload cap. That is something that I'm trying to figure out because we do have, currently we have things that are much larger than 25 megabytes. I believe that the contractor just set that arbitrarily. And we just haven't gotten to that piece of whether or not that's necessary. There we go. There's the National Register listed piece. All right. Do we have any more questions? I can just demo one other thing, a pretty basic thing, but for those of you that have annual reports, we do have a way to create a project for an annual report. If it's specific for a PA. So this one. And it basically works the same as Section 106 project, with the exception of there's no project finding. But if you have a survey that is associated with that annual report, you would upload it, or if you have just an attachment like a cover letter about your annual report, or any resources that need to be updated, they could all be added to this. And yeah, that was, I didn't really have much on that one, but I just wanted to point out that we do have annual report as an option along with the Section 110 and Section 106. Cami.
Yeah, so you read my mind by bringing that up. So for this annual report, when you put in that you have a annual report cover letter, say, then how does it connect or link to the PA itself that's entered?
Oh, so good question. We have this applicable programmatic agreement drop down. And so you would just select which PA it is in regards to. And this should have all of the PAs that are for your forest listed there. And that's how you would specify which one you're doing it for.
Great, thanks.
Sure. All right, well, there aren't any further questions. Oh, no, Shane.
Maybe this is just a real quick one. So I'm trying to track on that programmatic agreement thing. That's going to be driven by agency, or because we obviously, Idaho Power has programmatic agreements with multiple federal agencies and a lead federal agency that's not the land managing agency. So I'm trying to understand. You said it's going to be it looks like a drop down list there for those programmatic agreements.
It is a drop down. Can you give me an example?
Sure. Every one of our hydroelectric projects has a PA that's written and executed by FERC, but it will have Bureau of Land Management property in it and Forest Service property in it potentially. So the land managing agencies could be multiple within one programmatic agreement done by FERC.
Okay. So let's see. So you're saying you would be working with one of the land managing agencies, but that the project would have the PA with FERC? I'm sorry, I'm not as well versed in PAs.
Yeah, no, I guess I'm just understanding how this programmatic agreement field is going to work. Because it looked
Okay.
like when you put that in, it brought up a drop-down list.
Yes, that is correct. So if you had FERC, then, oh, wait, I got a little glitch here. Hold on. Then this would be, your lead agency would be FERC, and then you would select. Oh, but I see you're submitting it to BLM though, right?
Yes, typically, yeah, an annual report in some instances does not even go back to FERC. It would go to the federal agencies, BLM or Forest Service, and to you guys.
Okay, that is a good question. I will have to look into that.
The part of your question was answered by what you just showed me there, that you pulled it up and under FERC, there's a bunch of them. Those are the PAs for our hydroelectric project. So that may be adequate, because typically if we're consulting with the agency under something that came out of a programmatic, out of an annual report, we would be in touch with them separately anyway, but this would link that annual report to the PA properly. So that's okay.
Yeah, and then you could add like BLM as a secondary agency. So you would have FERC and BLM on the project.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so if you were to hit this submit button, it would go to FERC for submittal, which Chris isn't on the call. Can't remember if that was one that's a bypass agency, but BLM would have the opportunity to participate in this project and view all of the pieces of this project and add comments about it. So I'll follow up with Trisha and Ashley on that. Because like I said, I'm not very well versed in the PA piece of things.
No problem. Thanks. I think that's good for now.
Okay. All right, well, if there are no further questions, we can end early. You guys have given me quite a list of things to look into.
Thanks, Shannon. We learned a lot too.
Thank you. And if I didn't get to any questions, you can go ahead and email me and we'll try and get those addressed in our next update.
Thanks. Bye.